Incoherent. The fever made her incoherent. Income. Any income from investments must be reported. Income tax. Federal income tax will be deducted from your pay. Incoming. All incoming phone calls are monitored for quality control. Incomparable. The quality of their products is incomparable. Incompatible. Incompatible people. Incompetence. Mental incompetence. Incompetent. An incompetent worker doctor. Incomplete. An incomplete set of encyclopedias. Incomprehensible. I found his behavior utterly incomprehensible. Inconceivable. It's inconceivable that anyone could have survived such a violent crash. Inconsistency. Police noticed inconsistency in his two statements. Inconvenience. I hope this delay doesn't cause you any inconvenience. Inconvenient. The restaurant is in an inconvenient location. Incorporate. This design incorporates the best features of our earlier models. Incorrect. An incorrect answer. Incorrectly. He answered several questions incorrectly. Increase. Sales increased this year. Incredible. The movie tells an incredible story of survival. Incredibly. Incredibly, she has had no formal training as an artist. Incriminate. Material found at the crime scene incriminates the defendant. Incubate. The female bird incubates the eggs. Incurable. An incurable disease. Indebted. Heavily deeply indebted countries' companies. Indecent. Indecent photos. Indecision. They were paralyzed by indecision. Indeed. Indeed, he is a great poet. Indefinite. We're stuck here for an indefinite period of time. Indefinitely. It's foolish to think that economic growth will continue indefinitely. Indelicate. Many consider it indelicate to talk about such things in mixed company. Independence. They are fighting for independence from colonial rule. Independent. The country recently became independent. Indicate. Our records indicate a depth of 3,000 feet here. Indication. She gave no indication that she was angry equals she gave no indication of her anger. Indicator. Economic indicators suggest that prices will go up. Indictment. The grand jury has handed down indictments against several mobsters. Indifference. She was amazed that some people could watch the trial with indifference. Indigenous. He grows a wide variety of both indigenous and exotic plants. Indigestion. The patient complained of indigestion and nausea. Indignant. She wrote an indignant letter to the editor. Indirect. We took an indirect route. Indiscreet. He was indiscreet about his love affairs. Indispensable. She is an indispensable part of the team. Indisputable. He had indisputable proof that he had been there. Indistinct. Indistinct figures in the fog. Individual. What are the individual traits characteristics of the breed? Indoors. The game will be played indoors. Induce. The advertisement is meant to induce people to eat more fruit. Induction. Many people attended the bishop's induction. Indulge. It's my birthday. I'm going to indulge myself and eat whatever I want to eat. Indulgence. She lived a life of selfish indulgence. Industrial. Industrial development. Industrious. He is an industrious worker. Industry. He favors policies that promote industry. Inedible. Inedible mushrooms. Ineffective. The treatment was ineffective against the disease. Inefficient. An inefficient worker. Inept. An inept mechanic. Inert. An inert and lifeless body. Inestimable. He has made inestimable contributions to our society. Inevitable. The inevitable result. Inevitably. The changes inevitably resulted in criticism. Inexhaustible. The world's supply of oil is not inexhaustible. Inexorable. An inexorable conclusion. Inexperience. He blames his mistakes on inexperience. Inexperienced. She's an inexperienced driver. Inexplicable. An inexplicable mystery. Inexplicably. The files have inexplicably disappeared. Inextricable. He argues that there is an inextricable link between poverty and poor health. Inextricably. Our lives are bound inextricably with others. Infallible. I never claim to be infallible. Infamous. An infamous traitor. Infancy. She was often sick during her infancy. Infant. The infant was healthy. Infantry. He joined the infantry after leaving school. Infatuated. He was infatuated with his teacher. Infected. An infected wound. Infer. It's difficult to infer how these changes will affect ordinary citizens. Inference. Its existence is only known by inference. Inferior. Inferior goods, materials, products. Infertile. Infertile married couples. Infest. Lice infested a scalp. Enchant. The book has enchanted children for almost a century. Enchanted. The story takes place in an enchanted forest. Enchantment. Our enchantment faded when we found that the house needed even more repairs. Encircle. A fence encircles the field. Enclose. High walls enclose the courtyard. Enclosed. The enclosed tickets are for you. Encode. An encoded message. Encounter. We encountered problems early in the project. Encourage. They encouraged us in our work. Encouragement. Our aim is the encouragement of investment. Encouraging. We've just heard some encouraging news. Encroach. The suburbs encroach further into the rural areas each year. Encumber. We were encumbered by our heavy coats and boots. Encumbrance. These rules will only be an encumbrance. End. The report is due out by the end of the month. Endangered. Endangered plants. Ending. The movie has a happy ending. Endless. We endured endless meetings. Endlessly. She talks about it endlessly. Endorse. The newspaper has endorsed the Conservative candidate for mayor. Endorsement. The newspaper has announced its political endorsements. Endurance. The exercise program is designed to increase both strength and endurance. Endure. This tradition has endured for centuries. Enemy. They are sworn bitter enemies. Energetic. She has an energetic personality. Energetically. They were working energetically. Energize. His rousing speech energized the crowd. Energy. The kids are always so full of energy. Enfold. The dish is made of vegetables enfolded in a pastry crust. Enforce. Police will be enforcing the parking ban. Enforceable. This is not an enforceable contract. Enforcement. She works in law enforcement. Engage. He was engaged as a tutor. Engaged. They recently got engaged. Engagement. The couple recently announced their engagement. Engine. The car has a 4-cylinder engine. Engineer. Design engineers are working on ways to make the cars run more efficiently. Engineering. She studied mechanical civil chemical engineering. English. An English town poet garden. Engrave. They will engrave your initials on the ring for free. Engraving. She studied engraving in an art class. Engross. She gets completely engrossed in her work. Engulf. The valley was engulfed in a thick fog. Enhance. You can enhance the flavor of the dish by using fresh herbs. Enigma. To his friends, he was always something of an enigma. Enjoin. The court enjoined the debtors to pay. Enjoy. Did you enjoy the movie? Enjoyable. We had an enjoyable time. Enjoyment. She always found sports to be a source of great enjoyment. Enlarge. We had the photograph enlarged. Enlargement. Symptoms include enlargement of the lymph nodes. Enlighten. I don't understand what's going on. Can someone please enlighten me? Enlist. They're enlisting volunteers for an experiment. Enlistment. Military enlistment is voluntary. Enliven. He enlivened his speech with a few jokes. Enmity. There's a long history of enmity between them. Enormous. They live in an enormous house. Enormously. He enjoyed himself enormously. Enough. Have you got enough money? Enrage. His thoughtless behavior enraged us. Enrapture. Her melodious voice enraptured the audience. Enrich. They tried to enrich themselves at the expense of the poor. Enrollment. School enrollment is up this year. Ensemble. We went to listen to a new jazz ensemble. Enslave. Her ancestors were enslaved during the war. Ensue. When the news broke, a long period of chaos ensued. Ensure. They took steps to ensure the safety of the passengers. Entail. I'll need to know a little more about what the job entails. Entangle. The kite got entangled in the tree. Enter. Knock on the door before you enter the room. Enterprise. Moving the drilling rig offshore was a costly enterprise. Entertain. They like to entertain their friends at their summer home. Entertaining. An entertaining book. Entertainment. Entertainment was provided by jugglers. Enthrone. The Archbishop was enthroned last year. Enthuse. This dinner is wonderful, he enthused. Enthusiasm. The party supported its candidate with enthusiasm. Enthusiastic. They were enthusiastic supporters of the president. Enthusiastically. They welcomed her enthusiastically. Entice. The store hopes to entice shoppers with attractive window displays. Entire. We spent the entire day at the beach. Entirely. That's an entirely different question. Entitle. He entitled his book My Life on Mars. Entrails. Sheep entrails. Entrance. The entrance of the army into the city. Entreat. I entreat you to help me. Entrust. She was entrusted with the job of organizing the reception. Entry. His parents tried to make his entry into school life as smooth as possible. Entwine. The snake entwined itself around the branch. Enumerate. Let me enumerate my reasons for doing this. Enviable. The company is in the enviable position of having no real competitors. envious, envious neighbors. Environment. He grew up in a loving environment. Environmental, environmental laws. Envisage. I envisage a day when proper healthcare will be available to everyone. Envoy. Diplomatic envoys. Envy. My envy of his success. Epic. Homer's ancient Greek epic The Odyssey. Epidemic. A flu epidemic. Episode. It was a brief romantic episode in a life devoted to work. Epitome. Your response was the epitome of good sense. Epitomize. He epitomizes laziness. Epic. The Civil War era was an epoch in 19th century U.S. history. Equal. An equal number of apples and oranges. Equality. Racial gender equality. Equally. The money will be distributed equally among the winners. Equanimity. She accepted her misfortunes with equanimity. Equate. You shouldn't equate those two things. Equation. Solve an equation. Equilibrium. Supply and demand were in equilibrium. Equipment. Sports stereo laboratory equipment. Equity. In making these decisions, we should be governed by the principle of equity. Equivalent. Those less known companies manufacture equivalent products at cheaper prices. Era. The Victorian era. Eradicate. The disease has now been completely eradicated. Erase. The recording can be erased and the tape used again. Erect. An erect pole. Erosion. Landscapers planted grass to stop the erosion of the hillside. Erotic. Erotic dreams, fantasies, feelings. I may have erred in my calculations. Errand. He was sent out on an urgent errand. Erratic. His behavior seemed erratic. Erroneous. We received erroneous information. Error. I made an error in my calculations. Erupt. The volcano erupted with tremendous force. Eruption. A sudden eruption of violence. Escape. The prisoner escaped. Eschew. They now eschew the violence of their past. Escort. Visitors are not allowed to enter the building without an escort. Especially. He was especially concerned about the contract. Espionage. He was charged with several counts of espionage. Essay. Your assignment is to write a 500-word essay on one of Shakespeare's sonnets. Essence. The essence of love is unselfishness. Essential. As a fighter pilot, he knows that good vision is essential. essentially. What he says is essentially true. Establish. Establish a claim. Establishment. A dry cleaning establishment. Estate. His estate is worth millions of dollars. Esteem. She has won esteem for her work with cancer patients. Estimate. According to government estimates, current oil reserves are 10% lower than they were a year ago. Estimated. An estimated 50,000 people were in attendance. Estrange. His political beliefs have estranged him from his family. Eternal. Eternal life. Eternity. She promised to love him for all eternity. Ether. The balloon disappeared into the ether. Ethic. The Protestant Puritan ethic. Ethical. Ethical principles standards. Ethnic. The U.S. has a wide variety of ethnic groups made up of immigrants or their descendants. Etiquette. Her failure to respond to the invitation was a serious breach of etiquette. Evacuate. People who live along the coast are being evacuated as the hurricane approaches. Funny. He told a funny story. Fur. The cat has black and white fur. Furious. She's furious over how slowly the investigation is proceeding. Furnace. Stoke a furnace. Furnish. The inn is beautifully furnished. Furnishings. The room has very comfortable furnishings. Furniture. They bought some new furniture for the house. Furrow. We plowed furrows in the field. Furry. My children love furry animals. Further. He lives further from the office than his boss. Furthermore. These findings seem plausible. Furthermore, several studies have confirmed them. Furtive. He cast a furtive glance in our direction. Furtively. She slipped furtively out of the room. Fury. I could see the fury in her eyes. Fuse. The lights went out when the fuse blew. Fusion. A fusion of different methods. Fuss. They got down to business without any fuss. Futile. All our efforts proved futile. Futility. They demonstrated the futility of the plan. Future. He promises to do better in future. Fuzzy. A fuzzy sweater blanket. Gabble. I could hear my aunts gabbling in the kitchen. Gadget. A clever gadget. Gag. The hostages were bound and gagged. Giddy. The party had none of the gaiety we've seen in past years. Gaily. Chatting, playing, laughing gaily. Gain. They stand to gain an advantage over their competitors by getting an early start. Gainful. People seeking gainful employment. Gait. He has an awkward gait. Galaxy. The formation of galaxies. Gale. The boat was damaged in a strong gale. Gull. I can't believe she just said that to me. What gull? Gallant. The defenders of the fort made a gallant stand. Gallery. An art gallery. Gallop. The horse was at full gallop. Gamble. I like to gamble. Gambling. He was arrested for illegal gambling. Game. A card game. Gaming. He does a lot of gaming online. Gang. A gang of drug dealers. Gap. The child had a gap between her two front teeth. Gape. Her mouth gaped open. Garage. A house with a two-car garage. Garbage. The park was littered with garbage. Garden. We planted a small garden in our backyard. Gardener. He hired a gardener to take care of his estate. Gardening. Her hobbies include bicycling and gardening. Gargle. He gargled with salt water. Garland. They placed a garland of flowers around her neck. Garlic. The recipe calls for 2 cloves of garlic minced. Garnish. Garnish the cake with chocolate curls. Garrison. Troops defending the garrison. Gas. Carbon monoxide is a poisonous gas. Gash. The dog had a bad gash in his leg. Gate. The car drove through the gate and up the long driveway. Gateway. Mourners slowly passed through the gateway of the cemetery. Gather. The children gathered their toys and put them away. Gathering. I see my cousins only at occasional family gatherings. Gaudy. Gaudy jewelry colors. Gauge. A temperature rain gauge. Gaunt. A small gaunt man. Gauntlet. Soldiers in the past were sometimes punished by being forced to run the gauntlet. Gauze. Red gauze curtains. Gay. My uncle is gay. Gaze. He gazed out the window at the snow. Gear. Fishing gear. Gee. Gee, that sounds like fun. Geek. He was a real geek in high school. Gel. Hair gels. Gem. The house is a gem of colonial architecture. Gemini. His girlfriend is a Gemini. Gender. Please state your name, birth date, and gender. Gene. She inherited a good set of genes from her parents. General. They have issued a general warning order. Generalization. He made several sweeping broad generalizations about women. Generalize. She tends to generalize. Generally. He talked generally about his plans. Generation. She was worshipped by a generation of moviegoers. Generator. This new product will be a major revenue generator. Generic. Flu is sometimes used as a generic term name for any illness caused by a virus. Generosity. She is admired for the generosity of her spirit equals she is admired for her generosity of spirit. Generous. A generous benefactor. Generously. She tipped the waiter generously. Genetic. A genetic disease. Genetically. A genetically inherited illness. Genial. A genial host. Genie. He rubbed the magic lamp to summon the genie. Genius. Albert Einstein and Isaac Newton were great scientific geniuses. Gentle. A very gentleman dog. Gentleman. A true gentleman would never engage in such behavior. Gently. The vase is very fragile, so handle it gently. Genuine. Genuine leather. Genuinely. He was genuinely concerned. Geographer. She's a professional geographer. Geography. Studying the geography of the western United States. Germ. The germ that causes tuberculosis. German. German food literature. Germinate. Waiting for the seeds to germinate. Gesture. Specific gestures can indicate particular moods. Get. He got a new bicycle for his birthday. Getaway. The robbers made a clean getaway. Ghastly. A ghastly crime ritual. Ghetto. A Jewish ghetto. Ghost. A house haunted by ghosts. Giant. A giant photograph machine wrestler. Giddiness. Youthful giddiness. Giddy. Giddy children. Gift. The money was a gift, not a loan. Gifted. He's an extremely gifted student athlete. Gig. He was finally able to book a gig at the nightclub. Gigantic. Gigantic waves were crashing on the beach. Giggle. She giggled like a little kid. Gild. Gild a statue. Gild. She covered the frame with gild. Ginger. The recipe calls for a teaspoon of ginger. Girdle. The rings that girdle the planet Saturn. Girl. It's a girl. Girlfriend. My girlfriend and I have only been dating for a couple of months. Girly. A girly show magazine. Girth. The tree is about 2 meters in girth. Give. She gave him a camera for Christmas. Given. You'll have to finish the exam within a given time. Glad. We're glad that he won. Gladly. Will you take questions from the audience? Gladly. Glamorous. She looked glamorous in her formal black gown. Glamour. She left her hometown attracted to the glamour of the big city. Glance. Glancing down, she noticed her shoe was untied. Gland. Sweat glands. Glare. The sun glared down relentlessly. Glass. He broke the glass. Glaze. The storm glazed the trees with ice. Gleam. He saw the gleam of a flashlight in the distance. Glean. She gleaned her data from various studies. Gleeful. A gleeful smile. Glide. The swans glided over the surface of the lake. Glimmer. The glimmer of a distant star. Glimpse. We glimpsed him through the window as his car sped past. Glint. The sun glinted off the tops of the waves. Glisten. Rain made the streets glisten. Glitch. Glitches in the speaker's schedule caused some delays. Glitter. The sequins on her dress glittered in the sun. Gloat. After such a tough campaign, they're gloating over their victory in the election. Globe. She has a globe in her office. Gloomy. A gloomy hallway. Glorify. Glorify and give thanks to God. Glorious. He had a long and glorious military career. Glory. As a young soldier, he dreamed of winning military glory. Gloss. He polished the car to a high gloss. Glove. A pair of gloves. Glow. The coals glowed in the fireplace. Glowing. Her previous boss gave her a glowing recommendation. Glue. A tube of glue. Glum. There's no need to look so glum, things will get better soon. Glutton. She's a glutton for gossip. Gnaw. The dog was gnawing a bone. Go. He went to the window and looked out at the yard. Goad. He was goaded by a sense of duty. Goal. He set a goal for himself of exercising at least 3 times a week. Goat. In the last inning, a home run can make you the hero, and a strikeout can make you the goat. Gobble. We gobbled our meal and rushed back to work. Go-between. He'll serve as a go-between during the negotiations. God. Does she believe in God? In Greece. Goddess. A goddess of ancient Greece. Godfather. Her uncle is her godfather. God-forsaken. A God-forsaken little town. Godless. A godless people society. Godmother. Her aunt is also her godmother. Goggle. He goggled in amazement at the huge statue. Going. We were disappointed to learn of her going. Gold. Diamonds in a setting of 24-karat gold. Golden. A golden idol. Golf. Playing some golf. Golfer. She's an excellent golfer. Gong. They sounded a gong to summon us to dinner. Good. The food was good. Goodbye. Goodbye. See you later. Goodness. I believe there is goodness in everyone. Goodie. She gave each of the children a goodie at snack time. Gooey. We had gooey hot fudge sundaes. Goof. It was clear that someone had goofed. Goofy. She was making goofy faces at us in class. Goon. He was beat up by a couple of goons. Goose. A flock gaggle of geese. Gorge. My gorge rises when I think of children living in such bad conditions. Gorgeous. Your baby is absolutely gorgeous. Gorilla. She hired some gorilla as her bodyguard. Gospel. Preaching, spreading the gospel. Gossip. Have you heard the latest gossip about their divorce? Gossipy. A gossipy magazine writer. Gouge. The lamp fell and gouged the table. Gourmet. A gourmet meal. Govern. Members of the party have governed the country for the last 20 years. Government. The government has been slow to react to the crisis. Governor. The governor of the state of Florida. Gown. The bride wore a lovely lace wedding gown. Grab. She grabbed his wrist. Grace. She walked across the stage with effortless grace. Graceful. He has become a very graceful dancer. Graceless. Graceless movements. Gracious. It was very gracious of him to offer us a place to stay. Graciously. He graciously offered us a place to stay. Grade. Our son is in 4th, 12th grade. Gradual. We noticed a gradual change in temperature. Gradually. The temperature changed gradually. Graduate. He graduated from the university last June. Graduated. A graduated cylinder. Graduation. He joined the Navy after graduation. Grain. Bread made from whole wheat grain. Grainy. The mustard has a grainy texture. Grammar. The rules of grammar. Grand. He thinks everything the government does is part of some grand conspiracy. Grandiose. He was full of grandiose ideas. Grant. The mayor refused to grant my request for an interview. Granulated. Granulated sugar. Grape. A bunch of seedless grapes. Graphically. The crash was graphically described. Grasp. I grasped the end of the rope and pulled as hard as I could. Grass. A field of grass. Grate. I'll beat the eggs while you grate the cheese. Grateful. She was grateful she didn't have to work on the holiday. Gratification. Her life now offers few gratifications. Gratifying. It was a gratifying victory. Grating. She has a very grating voice. Gratitude. Let me express my sincere gratitude for all your help. Grave. Dig a grave. Gravely. He shook his head gravely. Graveyard. An automobile graveyard. Gravitation. The gravitation of young people toward computer careers. Gravity. They didn't seem to understand the gravity of the situation. Gravy. Mashed potatoes with gravy. Gray. A gray sweater suit. Graze. The cattle grazed in the field. Grease. Hamburger bacon grease. Greasy. Greasy clothes hair fingers. Great. All creatures great and small. Greater. Greater London. Greatly. She has contributed greatly to our success. Greatness. Shakespeare achieved true real genuine greatness as a writer. Greed. He was a ruthless businessman motivated by naked ambition and greed. Greedy. He was a ruthless and greedy businessman. Greek. The ancient Greeks. Green. Green leaves. Greenery. The restaurant was adorned with greenery. Greet. My husband greeted our guests at the door. Greeting. He addressed the members of the delegation with a formal greeting. Gregarious. She is outgoing and gregarious. Grid. The students plotted points on a grid. Grief. He has been unable to recover from his grief over his son's death. Grieve. It grieves me to see my brother struggling like this. Grill. She put the hamburgers on the grill. Grill. The vent was covered with a grill. Grim. Hikers made a grim discovery when they came across a dead body in the woods. Grimace. The patient maid gave a painful grimace as the doctor examined his wound. Grime. The windows were coated with grime. Grimly. She spoke grimly of the scarcity of jobs. Grin. She continued to tease her brother, grinning wickedly. Grind. Grind the coffee beans into a fine powder. Grip. The little boy gripped his mother's hand tightly. Grit. He shook out his shoes to remove the small rocks and grit. Groan. The wounded man groaned in with pain. Grocer. Ask your local grocer if he sells organic fruits and vegetables. Groggy. I'm still a little groggy from my nap. Groom. The horses are being groomed for the competition. Groove. The grooves on a vinyl record. Grope. I groped for the light switch. Gross. There is a gross error in the text. Grossly. She is grossly overweight. Ground. An apple fell to the ground. Groundless. The charges against him were groundless. Group. It'll be easier if we go there as a group. Grove. A grove of oaks. Grow. The city is growing rapidly, dramatically. Grower. This plant is known as a fast grower. Growing. The growing popularity of this film. Growl. I could hear a dog growling behind me. Grown. It's a job that requires a grown man. Growth. He had a growth spurt when he was 16 years old. Grub. Let's go get some grub. Grudge. She still bears a grudge against him for the way he treated her in school. Grudgingly. They grudgingly gave him permission. Faint. We heard a faint noise. Faintly. The room still smelled faintly of perfume. Fair. We received fair treatment. Fairly. A fairly easy job. Fairness. In the interest of fairness, let's not mention any names. Fairy. A good fairy. Faith. His supporters have accepted his claims with blind, unquestioning faith. Faithful. A faithful friend companion. Faithfully. He faithfully submitted all the proper forms. Faithless. A faithless friend, employee, servant. Thick. Thick emotions. Fall. An apple fell from the tree. Fallout. Radioactive fallout. Falsify. He was caught falsifying financial accounts. Falter. The business was faltering due to poor management. Fame. He died at the height of his fame. Familiar. A familiar joke site. Family. There were a lot of families at the circus. Famine. The famine affected half the continent. Famous. An internationally famous hotel. Fan. The engine was cooled by an electric fan. Fanatic. I became a boating fanatic. Fancy. A fancy dress. Fanfare. The new jet was introduced with great fanfare. Fang. The fangs of a rattlesnake. Fantastic. That meal was fantastic. Fantasy. His plans are pure fantasy. Far. The dog wandered far from home. Far away. My grandfather told us tales of faraway lands. Fare. How did you fare on your exam? Farewell. Farewell, good friend, until we meet again. Far-fetched. The movie features a far-fetched plot to kidnap the president. Farm. She grew up on a dairy farm. Farmer. My uncle has been a farmer for 60 years. Far-reaching. The court issued a far-reaching decision. Far-sighted. He wears glasses because he is far-sighted. Fart. A cranky old fart. Farther. Drive farther north. Fascinating. A fascinating book. Fashion. Jewelry and clothing fashions vary with the season. Fast. She's a very fast runner. Fastball. He struck him out with a fastball. Fasten. Fastening clothes onto a clothesline. Fastidious. He is fastidious about keeping the house clean. Fat. The dog is getting fat because you feed him too much. Fatal. A fatal accident. Fatality. The car crash caused one fatality and several serious injuries. Fate. They thought they would never see each other again, but fate brought them back together. Fat-free. The cereal is fat-free. Father. He became a father when he was 30. Fathom. The water here is 5 fathoms deep. Fatigue. We were overcome by fatigue after the long journey. Fault. He loved her despite her many faults. Faultless. A faultless performance. Favorable. The new play got many favorable reviews. Favored. She enjoys a favored position in the company. Fax. She sent me a copy of her report by fax. Fear. He was trembling with fear. Fearful. He plays the role of a timid and fearful clerk. Fearless. A fearless warrior. Fearsome. Tales of a fearsome monster. Feasible. This plan for a new town library is not economically feasible. Feast. Have the annual Thanksgiving feast. Feet. a performer known for her astonishing acrobatic feats. Feather. Dog feathers. Feature. This year's models include several new safety features. Fed. He got into trouble with the feds. Federal. A federal government system. Fee. The admission entrance fee is $10. Feeble. A feeble old man. Feed. Don't feed the animals. Feeding. When was the baby's last feeding? Feel. He felt a sudden pain in his leg. Feeling. A feeling of pain, nausea. Feign. He would often feign illness to get out of class. Feint. The boxer made a feint with his right, then followed with a left hook. Feisty. The novel features a feisty heroine. Felicity. Domestic marital felicity. Fell. Using an axe to fell a tree. Fella. He's not a bad fella. Fellow. Fellows and girls at a party. Fellowship. People came to the community dinner to share good food and good fellowship. Felon. A convicted felon. Felony. The crime is considered a felony under state law. Female. A female bird, mammal, insect. Feminine. A feminine look, appearance. Fen. Bogs and fens. Fence. We put up a fence around our yard. Ferment. The wine ferments in oak barrels. Ferocious. Ferocious animals. Ferry. The cars were ferried across the river. Fertile. Fertile farmland soil. Fertility. She studied the effects of pollution on the fertility of the local fish population. Fertilize. A single sperm fertilizes an egg. Fertilizer. We only use organic fertilizer in our gardens. Fervent. He is known for his fervent nationalism. Fervid. Fervid fans. Festival. Each year, a festival was held to celebrate the harvest. Festive. The house looks very festive during the holidays. Festivity. The decorations give the hall an air of festivity. Fetch. Wait here while I fetch the doctor. Fetid. A fetid pool of water. Fetish. He has a fetish for secrecy. Feud. The workers feud with management concerns health benefits and pay increases. Feudal. The feudal system. Fever. He has had a fever for 2 days. Feverish. She was feeling tired and feverish. Feverishly. We worked feverishly to prepare for the party. Few. Few people came. Fewer. I take fewer vacations every year. Fiancé. Let me introduce my fiancé. Fiancé. My fiancé and I will be married in June. Fiasco. The party turned into a complete utter fiasco. Fib. I have to admit that I told a fib when I said I enjoyed the movie. Fickle. Fickle weather. Fiction. She mainly writes fiction. Fiddle. An expert on the fiddle. Fidelity. She began to doubt her husband's fidelity. Fidget. He was constantly fidgeting in his chair. Field. He gazed out across the fields. Fiend. A murderous fiend. Fierce. He was killed in a fierce battle. Fiery. The fiery interior of the furnace. 15. $15. Fifth. The bill is due on the 5th of each month. 50. She's in her 50s. Fig. He doesn't care a fig about what others think. Fight. The soldiers fought bravely. Fighter. Nationalist fighters. Figure. He has a 6-figure salary. File. He put each memo in its proper file. Filing. Iron filings. Fill. May I fill your glass for you? Fillet. Catfish fillets. Filling. A very filling meal. Film. Have you bought any film for the camera? Filming. 2 weeks of filming. Filter. She smokes cigarettes with filters. Filth. He emerged from the cellar covered in filth. Filthy. Filthy clothes. Final. The final act of the play. Finale. She sang a very difficult song for the finale. Finalize. They're finalizing their divorce this week. Finally. He won't rest until the killer is finally found. Finance. She's taking a course on personal finance. Financial. The company is headed for financial disaster. Financially. A financially stable organization. Find. He found $1 on the ground. Finding. The Supreme Court overturned the lower court's finding. Fine. That's fine with me. Finesse. She handled the interview questions with finesse. Finest. He's a member of New York's finest. Finger. Don't stick your fingers in the cookie batter. Fingernail. I trimmed and filed my fingernails. Fingerprint. Detectives found his fingerprints all over the gun. fingertip. He tapped on the tabletop with his fingertips. Finish. He finished his speech and sat down. Finish. Finish likes customs grammar. Fire. Stay away from the fire. Firearm. Revolvers, rifles, and other firearms. Fireball. The house erupted into a fireball. Fireplace. A stone brick fireplace. Firework. Setting off some fireworks. Firing. The pot must cool before its second firing. Firm. Firm flesh. Firmly. He pulled the hat down firmly over his ears. First. She won first prize. First hand. He gave a first-hand account of the battle. Firstly. Firstly, we need to consider the issue of providing people with affordable health care. Fiscal. Fiscal policy responsibility. Fish. A small fish. Fishing. The fishing was pretty good today. Fishy. A fishy odor taste. Fist. He pounded his fist on the table in anger. Fit. A movie fit for the whole family. Fitful. He had a few fitful hours of sleep. Fitness. The program promotes healthy eating and physical fitness. Fitting. It was a fitting end to their rivalry. 5. The five of clubs. Fix. He fixed the fence last weekend. Fixedly. They stared fixedly at me. Fixture. Bathroom fixtures. Fizzle. The project ended up fizzling. Fizzy. Fizzy enthusiasm. Flabby. Flabby muscles. Flag. Raise lower the American flag. Flair. He has a flair for storytelling. Flake. Delicate flakes of snow. Flamboyant. A flamboyant performer. Flame. The flame of a candle. Flank. She gently patted the horse's flank. Flannel. Shirts made of bright-colored flannel. Flap. She opened the tent flap and crawled outside. Flare. A match flared in the darkness. Flash. Thunder rumbled and lightning flashed. Flashy. Rich young men who drive flashy cars. Flask. A flask of whiskey. Furu. He has been a guru to many young riders. Gush. Oil gushed from the well. Gust. His hat was blown off by a sudden gust. Gusto. She ate her dinner with gusto. Gut. The guts of the fish. Gutter. He squandered all his money and wound up in the gutter. Guy. He seems like a nice guy. Jim. He works out at the gym. Habit. It was his habit to take a nap after dinner every evening. Habitable. The house is not habitable. Habitat. A creature's natural habitat. Habitation. The house was not fit for human habitation. Habitual. He was fired for his habitual lateness. Habitually. He was habitually late. Hack. He hacked the tree down with an axe equals he hacked down the tree with an axe. Haggard. She looked tired and haggard. Hail. Many cars were damaged by hail during the storm. Hair. He plucked a hair from his arm. Haircut. The girls got haircuts yesterday. Hairline. The plate had a hairline running across it. Hairy. Hairy arms. Half. She broke each cookie into halves. Half-baked. A half-baked idea. Half-moon. The pattern consists of circles and half-moons. Halfway. She was leading at the halfway mark point of the race. Hall. The bathroom is down the hall. Hallowed. The church stands on hallowed ground. Hallucinate. The patient may hallucinate if she has a fever. Hallway. Her office is at the end of the hallway. Halt. The project had to be halted due to lack of funds. Halting. She answered in a halting voice. Have. He had the sandwich. Ham. A piece slice of ham. Hamburger. They served hot dogs and hamburgers at the cookout. Hammer. An auctioneer's hammer. Hamper. Bad weather could hamper our search efforts. Hand. These gloves will keep your hands warm. Handcuff. Handcuff a prisoner. Handful. The children collected seashells by the handful. Handicap. A mental physical handicap. Handicapped. He has been handicapped since his motorcycle accident. Handicraft. Her favorite handicraft is sewing. Handily. He won the card game handily. Handiwork. They admired the potter's beautiful handiwork. Handle. He held the shovel by its handle. Handlebar. Keep both hands on the handlebars. Handling. These items require careful handling. Handout. He sat on the sidewalk asking for a handout. Handshake. She greeted him with a handshake. Handsome. It was a handsome house situated on a large lot. Handwriting. Her handwriting is nearly impossible to read. Handy. A handy cookbook gadget. Hang. He hung the painting on the wall. Hanging. The hanging was scheduled for 3 o'clock. Hangout. The park was their favorite hangout. Hangover. She woke up with a hangover. Haphazard. We were given a haphazard tour of the city. Happen. Mistakes, accidents will happen. Happening. There were strange happenings at the inn. Happily. They have been happily married for 12 years. Happiness. They made a toast to long life and happiness. Happy. She was a very happy child. Harass. She was constantly harassed by the other students. Harassment. Children subjected to harassment by bullies. Harbinger. The warm weather is a harbinger of spring. Hard. Hard ground. Hard-boiled. Hard-boiled eggs. Hardcover. She bought several hardcovers. Hard-earned. Someone stole all her hard-earned money. Harden. It will take several hours for the concrete to harden. Hardly. She could hardly bear to look at him. Hardness. The hardness of a diamond. Hardship. He had suffered through considerable great hardship. Hardware. A hardware store. Hardy. A hardy rose. Hare. He came herring round the corner at top speed. Harm. No harm was done. Harmful. The chemical kills harmful bacteria. Harmless. A harmless snake. Harmonious. A harmonious song. Harmony. She taught him how to sing harmony. Harness. The pilot strapped himself into his harness before takeoff. Harp. Play harp. Harsh. The climate there is very harsh. Harshly. He treats his students harshly. Harvest. The beginning of the harvest varies from year to year. Hassle. Other kids were always hassling her because she was overweight. Haste. The application had been approved with undue haste. Hasty. I made a hasty sketch of the scene. Hat. A straw hat. Hatch. He squeezed into through the hatch and crawled below deck. Hate. You could see the hate in his eyes. Hateful. A hateful crime. Hatred. He had an irrational fear and hatred of foreigners. Haughty. Haughty aristocrats. Haul. Haul the ropes in. Haunch. A haunch of venison. Hunt. Spirits haunted the house. Haunted. Everyone says that the inn is haunted. Haunting. The old prison camp is a haunting reminder of the country's dark past. Have. Do they have a new car? Haven. The shelter offers provides a haven from abusive spouses. Havoc. The havoc of war. Hawk. The Hawks voted against the proposed cuts in military spending. Hay. A bale of hay. Hazard. Young people should be educated about the hazards of excessive drinking. Hazardous. It was a hazardous voyage. Haze. The bar was filled with a smoky haze. Hazel. Hazel eyes. Hazy. We had only a hazy view of the mountain. He is my father. Head. She patted the dog on the head. Headache. I'm starting to get a headache. Headdress. The dancers wore ceremonial headdresses. Heading. What is your current heading? Headline. The story of his arrest appeared beneath the headline caught. Headliner. He was the headliner at a local nightclub. Headlong. I dove headlong to the floor. Head-on. The two cars collided head-on. Heady. A heady wine aroma. Heal. The cut healed slowly. Healer. Time is a great healer. Healing. The healing process. Health. We nursed him back to health. Healthy. Healthy babies. Heap. He dumped the grass clippings into the compost heap. Hear. Do you hear that music? Hearing. Her hearing is good poor. Heart. I could feel my heart pounding racing. Heartache. I've had more than my share of heartaches in my life. Heartbeat. The patient had a rapid heartbeat. Heartbreak. He recently suffered a string of romantic heartbreaks. Heartbroken. She is heartbroken that things turned out so badly. Heartburn. I like spicy food, but it gives me heartburn. Hearth. They swept the ashes from the hearth. Heartily. The children ate heartily. Heartland. We drove into Scotland's heartland. Heartless. A heartless person act. Hearty. He gave us all a hearty welcome greeting. Heat. The sun's heat melted the snow. Heater. A water heater. Heathen. Heathen gods' practices. Heating. A house with electric heating. Heave. We heaped the box onto the table. Heaven. She prayed to God in heaven. Heavenly. The moon, stars, and other heavenly bodies. Heavily. Heavily salted foods. Heaviness. He felt a sudden heaviness in his chest. Heavy. Is that box too heavy for you to lift? No, it's not very heavy. Heavyweight. They are fighting for the heavyweight title. Heck. Oh, heck, I forgot my keys. Hectic. We both had hectic days at work. Hector. The judge ordered the attorney to stop hectoring the witness. Hedge. She invests her money as a hedge against inflation. Heed. She failed to heed the warnings. Heedless. They remain heedless of their own safety. Heel. Shoes with low high cushioned heels. Hefty. He was a tall, hefty man. Height. What's the height of the building? Heinous. These murders were especially heinous. Heir. His heirs could inherit millions of dollars. Heirloom. A priceless family heirloom. Hell. Getting the loan approved was pure sheer hell. Hellish. We've been having hellish weather lately. Hello. Hello there, how are you? Helm. The ship's captain took the helm. Help. Let me help you with that box. Helper. The carpenter measured the wall while one of his helpers brought in the tools. Helpful. A helpful neighbor shoveled our walkway. Helping. He had 2 helpings of carrots. Helpless. A helpless little baby. Helplessly. They were laughing helplessly. Hem. Shorten the hem of the dress skirt trousers. Hemisphere. The northern-southern hemisphere. Hemlock. Socrates died after drinking hemlock. Hemorrhage. The patient suffered a cerebral hemorrhage. Hens. He was a newcomer and hens had no close friends here. Her. She bought her own house. Herald. Rain heralds the arrival of spring. Herb. A dish seasoned with chopped fresh herbs. Herbal. Herbal tea supplements. Herd. Herds of cattle, horses, elephants. Here. I like it here. Hereby. I hereby declare the Olympic Games officially open. Hereditary. Hereditary traits, diseases. Heresy. They were accused of heresy. Heretic. The Church regards them as heretics. Heritage. A nation with a rich heritage of folklore. Hero. He returned from the war a national hero. Heroic. The heroic age. Hers. The book is hers. Herself. She considers herself lucky. Hesitant. She took a hesitant step back from the door. Hesitantly. He hesitantly asked a stranger for directions. Hesitate. She hesitated and waited for her friend to say something. Hesitation. He showed no hesitation about over-accepting the job. Hugh. They hid logs to build a cabin. Hibernate. Bears hibernating in their dens. Hiccup. The baby has hiccups. Hidden. A hidden microphone camera. Hide. She hid the gifts under the bed. Hideous. The room was filled with hideous furniture. Hierarchical. The army has a rigid hierarchical structure. Hierarchy. The church hierarchy faced resistance to some of its decisions. High. High mountains, peaks. Highlight. I missed the game, but I saw the highlights on the evening news. Highly. She is one of the most highly respected journalists in the country. Highness. Her Highness the Queen. High-pitched. She has a high-pitched voice. Highway. I had heard there was a traffic jam on the highway, so I took the side roads. Hike. We spent the afternoon hiking around the lake. Hiking. Hiking boots. Hilarious. Some people don't like his comedy, but I think he's hilarious. Hill. She watched the sunset behind the hills. Hillside. Streams of rainwater rush down the hillside. Hilltop. They built their house on a hilltop. Him. I hadn't heard from my brother in a while, so I gave him a call. Himself. He accidentally cut himself while shaving. Hind. The dog stood on his hind legs, begging for food. Hinder. Their journey was hindered by snow and high winds. Hindrance. She wanted to sign up for the class, but the cost was a hindrance. Hindsight. It's easy for us to say that the war was wrong, but we have the advantage benefit of hindsight. Hinge. A storage trunk with a hinged lid. Hint. I can't tell you the answer, but I'll give you a hint. Hip. She stood with her hands on her hips. Hip-hop. I listen to hip-hop and reggae. Hire. She had very little office experience, so the company wouldn't hire her. Hireling. She's one of the political hirelings who run the candidate's campaign. Hiring. The company's hiring practices. His. He bought his own house. Hiss. The air escaped from the balloon with a hiss. Historian. A military historian. Historic. An historic event. Historical. He strove for historical accuracy in the movie. History. I studied history in college. Hit. She told her son to stop hitting his sister. Hitch. Hitch a trailer to a car. Hive. The house was a hive of activity as we prepared for the party. Hoard. A hoard of jewels. Horse. She could only speak in a hoarse whisper. Hoax. The bomb threat is probably a hoax, but we should still evacuate the building. Hobble. She picked up her cane and hobbled across the room. Hobby. She collects stamps as a hobby. Hoe. The garden has to be hoed. Hog. A hog farmer. Hold. Hold the rail so you won't fall. Holder. She's the holder of an honorary degree. Holding. She has been selling many of her holdings in the stock market. Hole. I have a hole in my sock. Holiday. A religious holiday. Holler. He was hollering across the fields to his workers. Hollow. A hollow log. Holocaust. The museum is devoted to the Holocaust. Holy. A holy temple. Home. Right now his home is a small apartment. Homecoming. A large crowd gathered at the airport for the soldiers' homecoming. Homeless. Homeless people. Homely. She has a homely face. Homemade. Homemade bread. Homemaker. TV commercials often show happy homemakers. Homer. He hit 3 homers in yesterday's game. Homesick. He got homesick when he went to college. Homestead. They decided to farm the old homestead. Hometown. She returned to her hometown to stay after college. Homework. Please do finish your homework. Homey. A homey restaurant with a warm fireplace. Homicidal. A homicidal maniac. Homicide. The number of homicides increased last year. Homily. The priest gave a brief homily on forgiveness. Homophobia. She was accused of homophobia. Homosexual. A homosexual man. Homosexuality. He is very open about his homosexuality. Honest. They're honest people. Honestly. Officials counted the votes honestly. Honesty. She is admired for her kindness and her honesty. Honey. She likes honey in her tea. Honeymoon. Where are you going on your honeymoon? Honk. We could hear the geese honking overhead. Honor. These people deserve to be treated with honor. Honorable. The college has a long and honorable history. Honorary. He was awarded an honorary degree title. Honored. I feel honored to have been invited. Hood. Witnesses reported that the bandits were wearing hoods. Hook. He baited the hook with a worm. Hooligan. The windows were broken by a gang of teenage hooligans. Hoop. She wore gold hoops as earrings equals she wore hoop earrings. Hoot. The hoot of a car's horn. Hop. He hopped over the hot sand. Hope. No one knows yet if anyone survived the crash. At this point, we can only hope. Hopeful. The mood is sad rather than hopeful. Hopefully. They gazed up at us hopefully. Hopeless. He felt confused and hopeless after losing his job. Hopelessly. He stared hopelessly out the window. Horde. A horde of tourists entered the museum. Horizon. We sailed toward the horizon. Horizontal. A horizontal line beam. Horizontally. The line extends horizontally. Hormone. Sex hormones. Horn. Utensils made of horn. Horny. A horny growth. Horrible. He suffered a horrible death. Horribly. He was horribly disfigured in the fire. Horrid. People there are living in horrid conditions. Horrified. She had a horrified look on her face. Horrify. The details of the crime horrified the nation. Horror. There was a look of horror on her face. Horse. Ride mount a horse. Horseback. A horseback rider. Hose. There are several hoses stored in the shed. Hosiery. A shop that sells hosiery. Hospitable. The people of that country are very hospitable. Hospital. She's in the hospital. Hospitality. It was refreshing to be met with such hospitality after our long journey. Host. We were greeted at the front door by our host. Hostage. The terrorists demanded a plane and a pilot in exchange for the hostages. Hostess. We were greeted by our hostess. Hostile. They were entering hostile territory. Hostility. They were both glad to have gotten through the divorce proceedings without any visible signs of hostility. Hot. Hot August nights. Hotel. Check into a hotel. Hound. Autograph hounds. Hour. She wasn't supposed to eat for 6 hours before the operation. Hourglass. An hourglass shape. Evade. The criminals have so far managed to evade the police. Evaluate. We need to evaluate our options. Evaluation. Make do an evaluation of the program. Evaporate. Let the liquid start to evaporate. Evasion. He was arrested for tax draft evasion. Evasive. She gave an evasive answer. Eve. One pleasant summer's eve. Even. We finally reached even ground after the long climb. Evening. We're going out to dinner this evening. Evenly. The committee was evenly divided. Event. The article recounted the events of the past year. Eventful. An eventful day. Eventually. Eventually I did get better and returned to work. Ever. The crime rate is higher now than it has ever been. Evergreen. Most pines are evergreen trees. Every. I heard every word you said. Everybody. The president waved to everybody in the crowd. Every day. Everyday clothes. Everyone. He hated the movie but everyone else enjoyed it. Everything. People will buy everything she paints. Everywhere. Everywhere we went, people were friendly. Evict. His landlord has threatened to evict him if he doesn't pay the rent soon. Evidence. There is no evidence that these devices actually work. Evidently. He was evidently uncomfortable. Evil. An evil villain. Evocative. He wrote a powerful and evocative biography. Evoke. The old house evoked memories of his childhood. Evolution. The theory of evolution. Evolve. Some believe that birds evolved from dinosaurs. Exact. The exact time. Exactly. The mansion has exactly 33 rooms. Exaggerate. The book exaggerates the difficulties he faced in starting his career. Exalt. His behavior has exalted the power and prestige of his office. Exaltation. The exaltation of athletic skill. Exam. An annual physical exam. Examination. On closer further examination, the painting appears to be a fake. Examine. An accountant has been hired to examine the company's books. Examiner. Photo examiners. Example. He was inspired by the example of his older brother. Exasperate. The criticism of his latest movie is sure to exasperate his admirers. Excavate. They excavated an ancient city. Exceed. The cost must not exceed $10. Excel. He excelled at whatever role he played. Excellent. Her new movie has received excellent reviews. Except. The stores will be open daily except Sundays. Exception. I like all his books with one exception. Exceptional. An exceptional amount of rain. Exceptionally. The film was exceptionally good. Excerpt. She read an excerpt from the play. Excess. They were equipped with an excess of provisions. Excessive. An excessive display of wealth. Exchange. The exchange of goods. Excite. Ideas that excite young people. Excited. They were excited about over the trip. Excitement. Our excitement was building, growing, mounting as the end of the game approached. Exciting. An exciting discovery. Exclaim. I won, she exclaimed. Exclude. You can share files with some people on the network while excluding others. Exclusion. He spent all his time with colleagues to the exclusion of his own family. Exclusive. We have exclusive use of the beach. Excrete. Excrete sweat.